Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of SolarFury Thinks Too Much About Clash Royale. This is the very infrequent series where I just ramble about things in Clash Royale. Like, I mean it when I say very infrequent. Like, I haven't done one of these videos in 5 months. But today we are talking about something that I like to call the Clash Royale balance change dilemma. So basically, one of the most heavily debated and talked about topics in the Clash Royale community is the frequency of balance changes within the game. One very vocal side wants balance changes to be every single month, but there is also another side that prefers more infrequent balance changes. So I'm going to address both of these sides and their perspectives, and I'm going to weigh in on what I think is best for the game. And also, after you're done watching this video, be sure to leave a comment about what you guys think about the state of balance changes in Clash Royale. So we're going to start out by talking about those people that want balance changes every single month in Clash Royale. So Clash Royale actually had been doing monthly balance changes for an extremely long time, but starting at the beginning of 2021, they decided they would be doing balance changes every 3 months as compared to every month. And when this was announced, a large portion of the community was very upset with Supercell's decision. This is primarily because less balance changes would result in a meta that was increasingly more stale, and it would just make the game much more boring. And also, if a card was balanced or released and it turned out to be incredibly broken, there was nothing that Clash Royale could do about that card until the next wave of balance changes. For example, let's take a look at the Goblin Drill. Now, I am sure a lot of you remember the Goblin Drill's release in June of 2021. When the Goblin Drill was released, it was arguably the strongest card upon its release in Clash Royale history. Like, it was up there with like the Night Witch, the Elixir Golem, the Battle Healer upon their release. The Goblin Drill was just absolutely insane. And so what they were able to do, they were able to do an emergency nerf for the Goblin Drill just to tone it down a little bit, but they weren't able to do a proper nerf to the Goblin Drill until the next official wave of balance changes, which would be 3 months later. So this period of Clash Royale, which was pretty much the entire summer of 2021, June, July, and August, I believe, was just dominated by the Goblin Drill, and it was arguably one of the most frustrating periods for a lot of people in Clash Royale history. So in particular cases like this, monthly balance changes are definitely something that would be incredibly beneficial to have. Although, however, there is another side to this argument, which I feel like is incredibly important to address. There are some people in the community that don't like balance changes every single month. Now, this may sound like something that just doesn't make any sense at all, but I'm going to explain why I think that this isn't totally a terrible idea. So first of all, a large majority of people in the Clash Royale community that are incredibly vocal and do have a voice are players that are content creators like myself, or professional players that are level 14 and have a lot of cards that are maxed out. With these people, monthly balance changes don't have as much of an effect on their progression, because since they have a lot of max cards, you know, they can just swap out a card in their deck if it gets nerfed into the ground, or they could just swap decks entirely if the deck gets nerfed. Although, however, the majority of the Clash Royale community doesn't have the resources to make this a reality for themselves. For the people that aren't maxed out, monthly balance changes can be incredibly detrimental for them, and so here's why. Monthly balance changes can freshen up the Clash Royale meta by a great deal, but it also can make the meta very unstable and uncertain. And for casual players in the game, they don't have the resources to keep up with this ever-changing meta. If a card that a casual player has upgraded gets nerfed into the ground and is no longer viable, then all of the resources that that player put into that card would pretty much be wasted if the card isn't even usable in order to help that person win games. But in response to that, you might be asking, well, wouldn't the situation be amplified if there weren't monthly balance changes, because this player would have to wait a longer period of time in order for their card to get buffed again? And while that is a valid point, I like to think about it in a different way. So for example, let's say that a person has a deck built around Royal Hogs. If the Royal Hogs do get nerfed into the ground and they become a card that's honestly pretty bad and no longer usable, with there being more infrequent balance changes, it gives that player more time to find a replacement for the Royal Hogs in that deck, and it also gives them more time to level up that card without there being any significant shifts in the meta. So for these players that aren't maxed out and are casual players and don't have the resources to become maxed out, less infrequent balance changes are arguably better, so that way they don't have to adapt to a constantly changing meta when they literally just can't keep up with it. So between these two sides, monthly balance changes and more infrequent balance changes, which do I think is best? Well, I think what Clash Royale recently announced is what's best. Clash Royale actually recently announced that they're going to be switching from balance changes every 3 months to every 2 months. And I personally think that this is a sweet spot for balance changes. This gives those who like monthly balance changes more frequent changes in the meta, meta, and it still gives those who need time to adapt to a new meta a pretty significant time to do so. At the end of the day, this is a dilemma that will probably go on for all of eternity, but I just wanted to weigh in on both sides of the coin, give my perspective and give my thoughts, and I hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe.